Welcome to the peaceful space of sleep-friendly science, where we gently explore the nocturnal worlds our minds construct, asking what these silent architects are truly building in the dark. Every night, we drift away into a world woven from memory and imagination. But are these nightly theaters just random noise, or is there a silent architect at work? We invite you to wonder with us. What masterpieces are being constructed in the quietest hours of your mind? Now, settle in, take a deep breath, and let the soft sounds guide you as we begin tonight's journey into the unknown. Section 1. The Silent Architect's Welcome. As you lie here now, nestled in the quiet comfort of your own space, feel the day begin to dissolve around you. The sharp edges of your thoughts, once so clear and demanding, are starting to soften. The lists, the schedules, the conversations, they are like ink drawings left out in a gentle rain, their lines blurring, their urgency fading into the soft, absorbent paper of the approaching night. This is the great turning of the tide. For 12, perhaps 16 hours, the part of you that you call the conscious, thinking, planning self has been at the helm. Imagine the self as the diligent daytime manager of a vast and bustling grand theater. All day long, this manager has been rushing through the halls of your mind, directing the stagehands of your actions, adjusting the spotlights of your focus, and speaking the script of your interactions with the world. It has been a performance, and a demanding one at that. But now, the final curtain has fallen on the play of wakefulness. The audience of external stimuli has shuffled out, their applause and chatter fading into a distant echo. The house lights of awareness are slowly, deliberately, being dimmed, one by one. The daytime manager, your conscious self, takes a final walk across the stage. It checks the locks on the doors of logic, tidies the scattered papers of short-term memory, and with a quiet sigh of exhaustion and release, it hangs its keys on a hook by the door. Its work is done. The theater is now empty. Silent. Still. Or is it? Listen. Not with your ears, but with that deeper sense of knowing that awakens only in the quiet. In this profound stillness, another presence makes itself known. It does not arrive, for it was always here, waiting patiently in the wings. It is the night shift. It is the master craftsperson. It is the silent architect of your inner world. This architect is a being of a different nature. It does not speak in words, but in symbols. It does not think in straight lines, but in spirals and constellations of feeling. It carries no clipboard, no schedule, no agenda dictated by the outside world. Its only blueprint is the deep, unspoken architecture of your own soul. As the manager of your day self retreats, the architect steps forward, its gaze sweeping across the now empty stage of your mind. Where your conscious self saw a stage to be managed, the architect sees a workshop filled with possibility. It moves with an unhurried, ancient grace through the corridors you know so well, but it sees them with different eyes. It sees the raw materials left behind from your day's performance. That fleeting feeling of nostalgia you felt when a certain song played on the radio, the architect picks it up, feeling its texture, its emotional weight. It is a piece of velvet, rich and deep. The sharp, unresolved comment from a co-worker, the architect sees it not as a wound, but as a shard of obsidian, sharp-edged and gleaming, a material that could be ground into pigment or set into a mosaic. The sight of a bird taking flight outside your window becomes a feather, a symbol of freedom and release. The warmth of a shared laugh becomes a glowing, golden thread. These are the architect's materials, the fragments of your day, the residue of your emotions, the echoes of your sensations. To your waking mind, they were just life, passing moments. But to the architect, they are clay and timber, marble and moonlight, the fundamental elements from which entire worlds can be built. Feel yourself now beginning to drift. It is a gentle letting go, a feeling of becoming untethered from the solid ground of reality. This is the moment you hand the keys over completely. You are not falling into a void of nothingness. You are being lowered, gently, into the architect's primary workshop. The initial descent is often strange. You might see a flash of a face you don't recognize, hear a sentence that makes no sense, or feel a sudden sensation of falling, only to be caught by an invisible hand. Do not be alarmed. This is simply the architect beginning its work. It is testing the materials, tapping the stone to hear its ring, stretching the canvas to feel its give. The strict rules of physics and logic that govern your day theater no longer apply here. In this workshop, gravity is optional. Time is a fluid, bendable ribbon. Walls can become doorways, and doorways can open into the sea. This is the architect's creative freedom, its divine right in this nocturnal kingdom. It is sorting through the day's acquisitions, laying them out on its vast trestle board, not according to reason, but according to resonance. It pairs the shard of obsidian with a golden thread of laughter, seeing a connection your conscious mind could never have conceived. It dips the velvet of nostalgia into the ink of a forgotten childhood memory. This is the beginning of the great construction. You, the dweller of the house, are now asleep, but the house itself is coming alive with a secret, silent, and profound activity. A foundation is being laid. Scaffolding is rising in the dark. The architect is at work, and its sole purpose is not to build for the world outside, but to build for the world inside. To build for you. It is repairing the structures weakened by the day's stress. It is designing new wings for your understanding, new gardens for your joy. It is building bridges across the chasms of your fears. So let go. Trust the process. Trust the silence. You are in the hands of a master builder, an artist who knows you more intimately than you know yourself. Your only task is to surrender to the gentle current, to drift deeper into the quiet, and to allow the magnificent, mysterious work to begin. The stage is set. The materials are gathered. The silent architect has begun to dream you into being. Section 2. The day's raw materials. And so it begins. Imagine the architect now, standing in the vast, silent storeroom of your most recent past. The day you have just lived is not a single solid block of time. It is a quarry, rich with 1,000 different seams of stone and jewel, of clay and crystal. Your waking self, the busy manager, experienced it as a sequence of events. But the architect sees it as a landscape of raw potential, a treasure trove of textures and temperatures, ready for harvest. Let's walk with the architect and observe what it chooses. It moves past the obvious, monumental events first. That important meeting at work? Your conscious mind remembers it as a series of bullet points and outcomes. The architect, however, feels its substance. It is a block of cold, heavy iron, the weight of responsibility, the unyielding surface of professional expectation. The architect runs a hand over its cool, unbending form, noting the small fractures of self-doubt and the sharp, jagged edge of an unmet goal. It is a powerful, foundational material. Then there was that phone call with a loved one, the one filled with easy laughter and shared understanding. For your waking self, it was a pleasant moment. For the architect, it is something entirely different. It is a skein of spun gold, impossibly soft and radiant, with an inner warmth. It is light and strong, a thread that can be woven into any fabric to lend it beauty and resilience. The architect gathers this golden thread, coiling it carefully, knowing its immense value. But the architect's genius lies not in its use of these great, obvious blocks of experience. Any builder could work with iron and gold. The true artistry reveals itself in the subtle findings, the things you, the daytime manager, discarded as debris, as the dust of the day. Think of that fleeting moment, waiting for the traffic light to change. You glanced at the building beside you, your eyes tracing the intricate pattern of the brickwork for a second before moving on. You have already forgotten it. But the architect has not. It has collected the precise geometric pattern, the rhythm and repetition of the bricks, the subtle variation in their earthy, reddish tones. This pattern is a piece of code, a blueprint for a labyrinthine city or the tiled floor of a mysterious temple. It is a language of order and structure, saved for later use. What about the sounds? The day was a cacophony that your conscious mind learned to filter and ignore. But the architect misses nothing. It has collected the snippet of a song you overheard from a passing car, a melody that tugged at a memory you couldn't quite place. It holds this musical phrase like a captured bird, its notes fluttering with an unnamed emotion. It has saved the low, resonant hum of the office air conditioner, a sound that can become the thrum of a great machine or the drone of a cosmic OM. It has even kept the sound of your own keys rattling in your pocket, a percussive, metallic whisper that could become the chimes on a windswept porch or the rattling chains of a ghost. And the smells, the most ancient and potent of all triggers. The sharp, clean scent of a peeled orange at lunchtime. The earthy aroma of rain meeting dry pavement. The faint, almost imperceptible perfume of a stranger you passed on the street. Your waking mind registered them and let them go. The architect gathers them like a master perfumer, bottling these essences. Each one is a key to a potent emotional state, a direct pathway to a forgotten room in the mansion of your memory. The scent of the orange can unlock a feeling of simple, uncomplicated joy. The smell of rain can evoke a profound sense of melancholy or cleansing renewal. More important than sight or sound, however, is the emotional residue. Emotion is the mortar that will bind all these other materials together. Every experience of your day was steeped in a particular feeling, however subtle. This is what the architect is most drawn to. It is like a prospector panning for gold, sifting through the river gravel of your daily events to find the glittering flakes of pure feeling. It finds the dull, heavy lead of boredom from that long afternoon meeting. It finds the sharp, glittering shard of envy you felt for a colleague's success. It finds the warm, smooth riverstone of contentment from the first sip of your evening tea. It finds the tangled, thorny bramble of anxiety about tomorrow's tasks. These are not judged as good or bad. To the architect, they are simply colors on a palette. Lead can be grounding. The sharpness of envy can be honed into a tool for ambition. The bramble of anxiety can be woven into a protective fence. The architect is a collector of loose ends. It is fascinated by the unresolved, the unsaid, the incomplete. That conversation that ended abruptly, leaving you with a sense of unease. The architect picks up the final, unspoken sentence and holds it to the light, examining it from all angles. The question you wanted to ask but didn't? It is now a shining, alluring object in the architect's hand. The gesture of kindness you meant to offer, but let the moment pass? It exists now as a soft, glowing ember of potential, waiting to be fanned into flame. All these things, the monumental and the minuscule, the sights, the sounds, the feelings, the fragments are now being gathered. They are laid out across the vast, starlit floor of the workshop. The architect moves among them, not with a logical plan, but with an intuitive sense of harmony and resonance. It sees how the rhythmic pattern of the bricks could form a wall to contain the thorny bramble of anxiety. It imagines weaving the golden thread of laughter through the cold, hard iron of your professional duties, transforming it. It considers dipping the captured melody into the perfumed essence of rain, creating a completely new sensory experience, a feeling that has never before existed. This is the alchemy of the dream world. The transformation of the mundane into the magical. The architect is not merely replaying your day. It is dismantling it, breaking it down into its most fundamental particles of sense and emotion. It is preparing to reassemble these pieces, not into a reflection of the life you have lived, but into a living sculpture that reveals the life that is living within you. The materials are now sorted. The quarry of the day has been mined for its richest veins. Now, the tools of the mind's own forge must be chosen. Section 3. The Neurological Workshop. Having gathered its curious and potent materials, the architect now moves from the storeroom of the day's memory into the main workshop of the mind itself. This is not a place of brick and mortar, but of pulsating energy and shimmering neural pathways. This is the inner sanctum, the vast and intricate machinery of the sleeping brain. And for the work ahead, certain tools must be activated, while others are deliberately and wisely set aside. The first thing the architect does is walk to a door marked, the Office of Logic and Reason. This is the realm of your prefrontal cortex, the meticulous daytime manager's control center. All day, this office has been ablaze with light, its telex machines clicking with plans, its air thick with the hum of critical thought, linear time, and social appropriateness. It is the part of you that asks why, in a practical sense, that worries about consequences, that insists a door must lead to an adjacent room, and that you cannot simply fly by wishing it. With a gentle, knowing touch, the architect dims the lights in this office. It quiets the machines of judgment. It softly closes the door, not with a lock of finality, but with a quiet understanding that this particular foreman's skills are not needed for the night's project. The great censor is sent to its slumber. The incessant inner critic is given a pillow and a blanket. And in the sudden, profound silence left by the absence of logic, a new kind of freedom blossoms. The architect is now free to build a staircase out of water, to hold a conversation with the moon, to paint with colors that have no name. This is the first and most crucial step, the relinquishing of reason's rigid rule. With the critic silenced, the true heart of the workshop begins to glow. Deep in the core of the brain, a furnace roars to life. This is the limbic system, the ancient, fiery forge of your emotions. This is the domain of the amygdala. During the day, the office of logic kept this furnace well banked, its powerful heat used sparingly and with caution. But now, with the manager asleep, the architect throws open the furnace doors. Feel its heat. This is the raw, untamed power source for all dream construction. The architect takes the materials gathered from your day and begins to feed them to the flames. The cold, heavy iron of your work responsibilities is plunged into this emotional fire. It heats until it is glowing, malleable, no longer an unbending weight, but a fluid river of fiery metal, ready to be reshaped. The sharp shard of obsidian, that unresolved comment, is heated until its edges soften, its dark glassiness reflecting the fire's truth about the feeling it evoked in you, perhaps fear, perhaps anger. The architect works not with the events themselves, but with the pure, molten emotion extracted from them in this powerful forge. The sounds, the sights, the memories, they are all brought here to be imbued with this primal, emotional energy. This is why your dreams feel so profoundly real, so intensely meaningful, even when they make no logical sense. They are not built from thought. They are forged in feeling. From the roaring furnace, sparks fly, and they travel like shooting stars to another part of the workshop, the great visual loom. This is your visual cortex, a vast, dark chamber at the back of your mind. Your eyes are closed. No light from the outside world can enter here. And yet, this chamber is now more active than it was at any point during your waking day. It is here that the sparks from the emotional forge land on a vast, dark canvas and bloom into imagery. The loom is a place of pure creation. It does not need light. It weaves with the energy of emotion and memory. The molten feeling of anxiety might be spun into a thread that weaves a tangled, dark forest. The golden thread of laughter, now glowing from the forge, might become the light of 1,000 fireflies or a sun rising over a peaceful sea. The geometric pattern of the bricks you saw is now fed into the loom, but influenced by the heat of the forge, it may be woven into the walls of a childhood home you thought you had forgotten, or the repeating, inescapable corridors of a nightmare. The architect is a master weaver, its hands moving with impossible speed, creating the rich, vibrant, and often bewildering tapestry of your dream scene. It is a cinema powered not by a projector, but by the raw electricity of your own soul. But where do the specific images come from? Why that particular face, that specific house, that long-lost object? For this, the architect consults the great library. This is your hippocampus, the archivist of your life. It is a sprawling, endless library with towering shelves holding every memory you have ever formed, from the most significant to the most trivial. During the day, you can consciously walk down its main aisles, retrieving specific, needed information. But at night, the architect has a special key. It can wander into the dusty, forgotten wings, pulling down ancient, leather-bound volumes of childhood sensation, and long-forgotten conversations. The architect is the ultimate cross-referencer. It takes the newly forged emotion of, say, feeling trapped from today's meeting, and it searches the library for every other time you have felt that way. It pulls out a memory of being lost in a store as a child, the image of your third-grade classroom, the face of a character from a movie you saw a decade ago who is also imprisoned. It takes these disparate elements, the office, the classroom, the forgotten face, and, under the creative freedom of the silence logic office, it layers them, blends them, weaves them together on the visual loom. This is why dreams have their strange logic of association, why your boss might suddenly have the face of your old teacher, and your office is suddenly located in your childhood home. The architect is connecting the emotional dots across your entire lifetime. Meanwhile, on a phantom stage, another rehearsal is underway. Your motor cortex, the part of the brain that controls movement, is also buzzing with activity. The architect is choreographing scenes of running, flying, fighting, or dancing. The signals are sent. Run, jump, speak. And yet, you remain perfectly, wonderfully still. This is because a wise and silent guardian stands at the gateway between the brain and the body, a mechanism in your brainstem that ensures the body does not enact the high drama being rehearsed on the mind stage. This is REM autonia, a temporary and protective paralysis. It is a gift of stillness, allowing the architect the freedom to simulate any action, to practice any response, to fly to any height, all within the absolute safety of your peaceful, resting body. The workshop is now fully operational. The critic is asleep. The forge of emotion is blazing. The loom of vision is weaving its electric tapestry. The library of memory is wide open. The stage of action is set for a silent rehearsal. The air hums with a potent, creative energy. The raw materials of the day have been prepared. The tools of the deep mind are primed. Now, the true construction, the building of the dream itself, can commence. Section 4. Emotional Scaffolding and Regulation. With the workshop humming, the forge of feeling ablaze, and the great loom weaving its silent cinema, a crucial question arises. To what end? Why this nightly spectacle of bizarre theater and emotional intensity? If the daytime manager, your logical self, were to peer through a crack in the door, it would see only chaos. A wild, undisciplined artist at play. But the architect is no mere artist of abandon. It is a master engineer of the soul, and this vibrant, fiery work has a profound and vital purpose. It is the construction of your emotional home. Think of your emotional self as a vast, living building. Each day, this building is weathered by the elements of experience. The winds of stress can rattle its windows. The acid rain of criticism can eat away at its mortar. The tremors of unexpected events can shake its very foundations. And while you are awake, you are too busy living inside the house to notice the subtle, accumulating damage. You might feel a draft, a sudden chill, a floorboard that creaks with a new anxiety, but you rarely have the time or the tools to perform a full inspection. This is the architect's primary task. As you sleep, it steps outside the building of yourself and begins its nightly survey. Its gaze is expert and compassionate. It sees the fine hairline crack that formed in the wall of your confidence after that moment of self-doubt. It notices the stain of sadness that has seeped into the woodwork of a happy memory. It feels the unstable ground of a lingering fear, threatening the foundation of your peace. The architect does not immediately tear down the damaged walls or patch the cracks with simple filler. Its work is far more sophisticated. It begins by erecting a scaffold. This dream you are entering is the scaffold. Look at its structure. It seems strange, illogical, built from mismatched parts of conversation with a long-lost pet, a staircase that leads into the sky, a room where the walls are made of melting clocks. Your waking mind would dismiss it as nonsense. But see it now through the architect's eyes. This bizarre structure is a masterpiece of temporary, supportive engineering. It is built for one reason: to provide safe access to the wounded parts of your emotional architecture. Let us return to that sharp, unresolved comment from a co-worker, the shard of obsidian that the architect heated in the forge of the limbic system. The emotion tied to it is potent, a mixture of injustice, anger, and perhaps a touch of shame. During the day, you pushed it away. To confront it was too painful, too distracting. You bricked it over. But the pressure remains behind the wall. So tonight, the architect builds a scaffold to reach that very spot. The dream might not be about your office at all. Instead, you might find yourself in a strange game where someone is throwing sharp stones at you and you have no shield. Or you might be trying to speak, but your voice makes no sound, the very words of your defense turning to dust in your mouth. The architect has taken the feeling, the molten emotion from the forge, and has woven a story around it on the visual loom. The genius of this process lies in a quiet miracle of neurochemistry. While the forge of your amygdala burns bright, creating the intense feeling of the dream, the architect has gently turned off the chemical messengers of stress. The flow of noradrenaline, the hormone of fight or flight, is significantly reduced during this stage of sleep. It is as if the architect is conducting its fiery repairs inside a soundproof, fireproof chamber. You get to experience the pure, unadulterated emotion of the event, but without the accompanying physiological panic, the racing heart, the tense muscles, the surge of cortisol. This is the architect's gift of regulation. It is allowing you to pick up that burning shard of memory, to examine it, to feel its heat, but with magical, fire-resistant gloves on. You are experiencing the emotion in a way that allows you to learn from it without being re-traumatized by it. The dream scaffold lets you get close enough to the crack in the wall to see what it's made of. You can see the shape of the injustice, the texture of the anger. You are processing the experience. As the dream unfolds, the architect is performing its repairs. By reliving the emotion in this controlled, safe environment, you are metabolizing it. You are digesting the raw feeling. The architect is like a master kintsugi artist, taking the broken pieces of your day and mending them not with invisible glue, but with veins of gold. It is not hiding the break, but transforming it into a source of beauty and strength. The memory of the event is being consolidated, moved from the urgent/unprocessed file to the integrated/understood file in the great library of your hippocampus. The painful event is being decoupled from its painful charge. This is not only for wounds. The architect is also a cultivator of joy. It revisits the golden thread of that happy phone call and builds a glorious pavilion around it. In your dream, you might find yourself flying, or discovering a room filled with sunlight, or sharing a moment of perfect, unspoken understanding with someone you love. The architect is reinforcing the neural pathways of joy and connection, making them stronger, more easily accessible in your waking life. It is building balconies and sunrooms onto your emotional home, places where you can go to feel the warmth. It tends to the gardens of your contentment, watering the seeds of peace you may have sown during the day without even realizing it. Through this nightly work of building and dismantling these emotional scaffolds, your entire inner structure is being tended to. It is a process of constant, gentle renovation. This is how you build resilience. This is how you wake up, not always remembering the bizarre dream, but feeling that the sharp edge of yesterday's hurt is somehow softer. The weight of yesterday's burden feels a little lighter. You may not know why, but the architect knows. It has worked through the night, a silent, tireless therapist, mending the imperceptible damages and reinforcing the architecture of your peace. The work is slow, patient, and happens every single night. The architect knows that a strong emotional home is not built in a day. It requires constant maintenance. And so, it uses these dream structures not just to repair the past, but also to test the building's integrity against future storms. Each scaffold is also a stress test, a simulation, a dress rehearsal for the world that awaits you at sunrise. Section 5. The virtual rehearsal space. Having tended to the cracks in the walls and reinforced the emotional structure of your inner home, the architect's work now takes on a new, more dynamic quality. The scaffolding, having served its purpose for repair, is not dismantled. Instead, it is transformed. The quiet construction site becomes a stage, a gymnasium, a flight simulator for the soul. For the architect knows that it is not enough to have a house that is strong. The dweller of the house must also be prepared for the world outside its doors. This is the dress rehearsal. Welcome to the safest, most advanced virtual reality simulator in existence. It has been custom-built for you, every night, for your entire life. There are no goggles to wear, no wires to connect. The interface is your own consciousness, and the scenarios are drawn from the deepest well of your own potential and your most profound anxieties. This is the dreamscape as a training ground, a dojo built of shadow and starlight where you can practice for life itself. The primary safety feature of this simulator is absolute. As we discovered in the neurological workshop, the guardian at the gate of your brainstem ensures your body remains in a state of peaceful stillness. This is the architect's ultimate promise. Here, you can fail without consequence. You can confront the most terrifying monster and be devoured, only to find yourself unharmed in your bed. You can leap from the highest cliff, not to test gravity, but to test the very idea of falling. This total safety is not a bug. It is the core feature. It is what allows for the most courageous and necessary forms of practice. Consider one of the most common training scenarios, the chase. You find yourself running, your heart pounding in your chest, through streets that twist and change, or down corridors that stretch to infinity. Behind you, a pursuer. Perhaps it is a shadowy figure, a faceless entity of pure menace. Perhaps it is a wild animal, teeth bared. Or perhaps, most strangely, it is something mundane, a slow-moving person from whom you flee with an inexplicable terror. Your waking mind would label this a nightmare, a word dripping with fear and negativity. But the architect, your personal trainer, sees it differently. This is a stress test. This is practice. The architect is not tormenting you with fear. It is allowing you to become acquainted with it. The shadowy figure is the form your architect has given to that looming deadline, that unspoken conflict, that pervasive feeling of social anxiety you carried with you all day. To face it directly in the waking world might be paralyzing. So the architect gives it legs, gives it a shape, and invites it into the dojo for a sparring session. As you run, you are practicing. You are testing your endurance. You are navigating a complex and unpredictable environment. You are feeling the full, adrenalized, primal sensation of flight. Your mind is rehearsing escape routes, strengthening the neural pathways associated with self-preservation and quick thinking. Some nights you may escape. Other nights you may be caught. The outcome is irrelevant. The value is in the rehearsal. You are spending time with your fear, learning its weight, its speed, its nature, all from within the padded walls of the simulator. When you encounter its real-world counterpart tomorrow, the intimidating email, the confrontational meeting, you will not be meeting it for the first time. Some part of your nervous system has already run the drills. Then there is another category of rehearsal, the social simulation. The architect rebuilds the stage of human interaction, a place often more fraught with peril than any dark forest. Perhaps you find yourself in a dream where you are trying to explain something vital, but the words won't come out. Or they come out garbled, nonsensical. Or, no matter how loudly you shout, no one can hear you. This is not a prophecy of failure. This is the architect's script writing workshop. It has identified a communication you need or want to make in your waking life, a difficult conversation with a partner, a request for a raise, an apology you owe. It presents you with the core emotional challenge, the fear of being misunderstood, of not being heard, of saying the wrong thing. In the dream, you can rehearse. You can try shouting. You can try whispering. You can try gestures. You can experience the frustration and the feeling of impotence in a zero-stakes environment. The architect is letting you feel the emotional splashback of different approaches so that when you finally approach the real conversation, you have a more nuanced, intuitive sense of the emotional landscape you are about to enter. And what if that most classic of all training modules, the unprepared examination? You are back in a school you haven't seen for decades. A test paper is placed before you, filled with questions on a subject you have never studied. Panic sets in. The feeling of being exposed, of being judged and found lacking, is overwhelming. The architect is not interested in your academic history. It is using a powerful, familiar template, the exam, to simulate a current-day challenge. That test could be a new project at work for which you feel unqualified. It could be the challenge of parenting, of a new relationship, of any situation where you fear your performance will be judged. The dream is a diagnostic tool. It is stress testing your confidence. It is showing you, through a powerful metaphor, where you feel unprepared in your waking life. It is an invitation not to panic, but to look at the subject you are afraid of and ask, what do I need to study? Where can I find the knowledge I need to feel prepared? By running these simulations, threats, social challenges, performance anxieties, the architect is not just building your emotional home, it is training the security guard, teaching the diplomat, and coaching the performer who lives within it. It is building a different kind of muscle, cognitive and emotional flexibility, the ability to respond to the unexpected. Each night, you run through a dozen different plays, a dozen different emergency drills. You practice falling so you might learn how to land. You practice fighting so you learn how to stand your ground. You practice being lost so you learn how to find your way. You wake up with no memory of the specific lessons. You do not consciously recall the strategies you tested. And yet, something has been integrated. Your response system has been subtly broadened and refined. You are a little less brittle, a little more fluid, a little better prepared for the grand, unscripted improvisation of the coming day. But sometimes, the architect hangs up the training gear, dismisses the sparring partners, and clears the stage. Sometimes, the goal is not rehearsal or repair. Sometimes, it is simply to create. Section 6. The Surrealist Gallery. For many nights, the architect is a diligent engineer, a compassionate therapist, a meticulous trainer. Its work is profoundly functional, aimed at mending, preparing, and strengthening the inner you. But there are other nights. Nights when the architect seems to set aside its blueprints and its training manuals. Nights when it sheds the role of the purposeful builder and dons the splattered smock of a wild, visionary artist. On these nights, the workshop does not feel like a construction site or a gymnasium. It becomes a private gallery, an exhibition of the impossible, a secret museum of the beautifully absurd. Welcome to the Surrealist Gallery. You enter this space not through a door, but by a sudden shift in the very fabric of reality. One moment you are in a familiar dream scene, a house, a street, and the next, the rules have not just been bent, they have been joyfully, extravagantly shattered. You look up and see that the clouds are not made of water vapor, but of ticking clocks, their hands spinning backward. The trees on the street corner have shed their leaves and are now sprouting brightly colored telephones, each one ringing with a melody you almost recognize. A school of luminous fish, shimmering with iridescent scales, swims gracefully through the air of your living room, their fins leaving trails of silent music in their wake. Your waking mind, that tireless seeker of sense, would scream in protest. This is wrong. Clouds are not clocks. Fish cannot fly. But remember, the office of logic and reason is dark and silent. Its door is closed. The critic is asleep. And in its absence, there is no one to shout wrong. There is only the quiet invitation to witness. In these dreams, the architect is not trying to send you a coded message. It is not building a scaffold to repair a specific emotional wound or running a simulation for a future threat. Here, the architect is engaged in the purest form of creation, play. It is intoxicated with the sheer freedom of its own workshop. It has spent the day observing the rigid, predictable physics of your world, and now, in the glorious privacy of the night, it revels in subverting every single law. It is the spirit of a divine child who asks, "Why can't you wear the ocean like a coat?" and then proceeds to tailor it for you, complete with seashell buttons and sleeves of foam. It is the joy of a master painter who has grown tired of painting portraits and landscapes and begins to paint the sound of laughter, the taste of nostalgia, the feeling of a forgotten promise. Let us revisit the storeroom of the day's materials, but see them now through the eyes of this surrealist artist. The architect is no longer looking for materials to solve anything. It is looking for delightful and impossible combinations. It takes the geometric pattern of the brick wall you saw and asks, what if this were the skin of the cat that sits on my windowsill? It takes the sound of your rattling keys and says, this will be the language the flowers in the garden speak to one another. It takes the feeling of warmth from your evening tea and decides to build a staircase out of it, each step radiating a gentle, comforting heat. This is the alchemy of the absurd. It is synesthesia let loose, the blending of senses into a new, exhilarating poetry. You might find yourself having a conversation with the color. The deep, somber blue might speak to you in a low, resonant voice, telling you ancient stories, while the vibrant, joyful yellow might communicate only in cheerful, bell-like tones. You may taste the music playing in the background, each note a different, surprising flavor on your tongue. The temptation, upon waking, is to frantically search for meaning. What did the flying fish represent? What was the symbolism of the telephone tree? This is the logical mind, awake once more, trying to tidy up the gallery, trying to put labels on all the paintings. But in doing so, it risks missing the point entirely. The meaning of these dreams is not a puzzle to be solved. The meaning is the experience. It is the feeling of pure, unadulterated wonder. It is the shock and delight of seeing reality unbound. The architect is giving your rational mind a night off. For a few precious hours, you are relieved of the exhausting, lifelong duty of making sense of everything. You are simply invited to be present in a world that is gloriously, liberatingly nonsensical. Think of it as a form of deep rest for the analytical part of your soul. It is a palate cleanser for the psyche. By immersing you in a world where anything is possible, the architect is gently stretching the boundaries of your own imagination. It is whispering a profound truth that gets lost in the noise of the day, that the world is far more mysterious, fluid, and magical than your five senses and your logical brain would have you believe. These surreal dreams are a vital part of your mental ecosystem. They are the wild, untamed national parks of your inner landscape. They prevent your consciousness from becoming a sterile, monotonous monoculture of reason. They are an injection of chaos, creativity, and humor. They are the architect giggling to itself as it paints a mustache on the Mona Lisa of your expectations. So when you find yourself in such a dream, when you are rowing a boat across a desert of stardust or attending a formal banquet where the guests are all well-dressed flamingos, try not to question it. Try not to analyze. Simply be the visitor in the gallery. Admire the brushstrokes. Feel the impossible textures. Listen to the nonsensical symphonies. Let the sheer, unbridled creativity of your own deep mind wash over you. There is no test here.
No listen.
There is only the show. A private viewing of the masterpieces created when your very own silent architect decides to play. But a curious thing happens in this playground of the absurd. In this process of randomly connecting the unconnected, of throwing colors at the canvas with no plan, sometimes two disparate ideas will collide in a way that is not just strange, but brilliant. Sometimes, in the heart of the madness, a new and elegant solution emerges, as if by accident. The artist at play can, without even trying, become the most startling of innovators. Section 7. The Innovation Laboratory. The echo of the architect's surrealist giggle still hangs in the air of the workshop, a shimmer of playful chaos. The flying fish may have dissolved back into the ether, and the telephone trees may have rooted themselves back into mundane reality. But something from that wild, creative abandon remains. For it is here, in the fertile soil of the absurd, that the seeds of genuine innovation are often sown. The gallery of the surrealist artist has a secret, hidden door, and behind it lies a different kind of chamber, the innovation laboratory. This is not a space of deliberate invention. There are no signs on the wall that say, problem-solving department. The architect does not enter this room with a specific question and a desire for a logical answer. The breakthroughs that happen here are almost always happy accidents, the unforeseen byproducts of its creative play. It is the magic that happens when you throw 1,000 random ingredients into a pot and discover, by sheer chance, the recipe for a miracle. The secret to this laboratory's power lies in what it lacks: a supervisor. In your waking life, your prefrontal cortex, the stern and sensible manager, presides over all your thinking. It is a master of focus, but also a gatekeeper of convention. It insists that you connect ideas in logical, established ways. It builds sturdy, well-trodden highways between related concepts. But it actively discourages you from building a bridge between, say, the island of your morning commute and the island of a half-forgotten fairy tale from your childhood. The two are unrelated, the supervisor insists. A bridge would be a waste of resources. But here in the night, the supervisor is sound asleep. The architect, your creative genius, is free to be the most eccentric and brilliant engineer imaginable. It is a master of cognitive matchmaking, pairing ideas that have never been formally introduced. It looks at all the islands of knowledge, memory, and experience in the vast archipelago of your mind, and it begins to build bridges. Wild, fantastical, impossible bridges. A shimmering rope bridge made of a melody. A sturdy cantilever bridge built from a particular scent. And sometimes, one of these impossible bridges connects two islands in a way that creates a spark. A flash of light illuminates both landmasses in a completely new way. A problem that seemed unsolvable from the perspective of one island is suddenly, effortlessly resolved by a perspective from the other. This is the moment of insight. The aha. History is filled with the legends of this laboratory's work, blueprints delivered from the architect's workshop to a sleeping mind. Consider the chemist, Auguste Kekulé, wrestling for months with the structure of the benzene molecule. His waking mind, the logical supervisor, tried every linear configuration, every straight chain, and failed. It was a wall. Frustrated and exhausted, he drifted into a doze by the fire. His silent architect took over. It entered the laboratory, not with the problem of chemistry, but with the spirit of the surrealist. It began to play with the atoms, making them dance and spin like the embers in the hearth. It reached into the great library and pulled out an ancient, powerful symbol it found there: the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. A symbol of eternity, of cycles, of wholeness. In a moment of divine, non-logical play, the architect commanded the dancing chain of atoms to do the same. To bite its own tail. To form a ring. Kekulé awoke with a start. The problem not just solved, but solved with a beautiful, elegant simplicity he had never conceived. The blueprint was delivered. Or think of Elias Howe, the inventor, stuck on the problem of the sewing machine. His waking mind was trapped in the logic of a hand-sewing needle. The hole, of course, must be at the blunt end. But this design failed again, and again in a machine. One night, his architect took him to the laboratory. But it was disguised as a nightmare, a simulation. Howe dreamt he was captured by a tribe of warriors. They were threatening him, advancing on him with their spears. As they came closer, his terror turned to fascination. He noticed, with the strange, detached clarity of a dream, that their spears were pierced with a hole not at the base, but at the very tip. He awoke, and the final, crucial piece of his invention was in his hand. The architect had used a threatening simulation to deliver an innovative solution. It built a bridge between the island of primitive warriors and the island of industrial machinery. Your architect is at work in this laboratory every night. It is not always designing world-changing inventions. Its projects are often far more intimate, but no less profound. Perhaps you have been wrestling with a difficult email you need to write. You have written and deleted it a dozen times, the words feeling clumsy and wrong. You sleep on it. That night, your architect, while playing in its surrealist gallery, combines the feeling of that email's anxiety with the memory of a gentle stream you saw on a walk years ago. In your dream, you're trying to build a dam with sharp, heavy rocks, but the water simply flows around them. Then, you simply place a line of smooth, soft moss in the stream, and the water is gently, easily redirected. You wake up. You do not remember the dream of the stream, but as you sit down to write the email, the words come easily. They are softer, more flexible, more effective. The architect left the blueprint on your bedside table, a new strategy written not in words, but in feeling and metaphor. This is the source of that common phrase, sleep on it. It is an act of profound trust. It is the waking manager admitting defeat and handing the problem over to the night shift. It is a request for the architect to open the laboratory, to begin its strange and wonderful work of building impossible bridges. It might be a breakthrough in your understanding of a relationship, a new approach to a creative project, a sudden clarity about a career path. The architect takes the tangled knot of the problem, and instead of trying to pull it apart logically, it simply dips the entire knot into a new substantia forgotten memory, a strange image, a raw feeling, and the knot loosens itself. So when you feel stuck, when you are pacing the floor of a mental room with no doors, remember the laboratory that opens only when you close your eyes. The solution may not lie in more effort, but in surrender. It lies in trusting that your silent architect, your inner innovator, is waiting to connect the dots you cannot see. It is waiting to draw you a map to a place you didn't even know existed. But a mystery lingers in this laboratory. The architect often draws upon images and symbols from the great library of your own life. But what happens when it uses a symbol that feels older than you? What happens when it pulls a book from a shelf you do not remember ever placing there? Section 8. Echoes in the Collective Hall. The architect has, until now, seemed a deeply personal, intimate creator. Its materials are harvested from the quarry of your day. Its blueprints are drawn from the library of your own life. Its purpose seems to be the maintenance and growth of your individual self. But sometimes, in the deepest hours of the night, when the workshop is humming with its most profound work, the architect seems to open a door you did not know was there. This door does not lead to the storeroom of your past or the laboratory of your future. It opens onto a vast, echoing chamber that feels both ancient and strangely familiar. Welcome to the Collective Hall. In this hall, the air is thick with the dust of ages. The walls are lined not with shelves of your personal memories, but with towering, archetypal statues. The floor is an intricate mosaic depicting myths and symbols that resonate with a power that feels far older and larger than your own short life. You walk through this space in your dream, and you feel a sense of homecoming, of recognizing a place you have never personally visited. It is here, in this majestic hall, that the architect finds some of its most powerful and universal materials. Here, you may dream of things you have never directly experienced. You might dream of a wise old man with a long white beard who offers you cryptic but essential advice. You have never met this man, yet you know him instantly. He is the sage, the hermit, the mentora figure carved into the very stone of this hall. You might dream of a terrifying, dragon-like creature guarding a fabulous treasure. You must confront this beast, not with a sword, but with your courage or your wits. You have never seen a dragon, but the meaning of the encounter is instantly, intuitively clear. It is the guardian of the threshold, the personification of the great challenge that stands between you and your own potential. You may find yourself on a great journey, an epic quest to a distant mountain or a sacred city. The journey is fraught with obstacles and populated by helpers and hindrances. This is the hero's journey, a story etched into every column and archway of this grand chamber. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung was one of the first modern explorers to map this space. He called it the collective unconscious, a layer of the psyche shared by all of humanity. He proposed that we are all born with a common inheritance, a set of innate psychic blueprints for understanding the world. These are the archetypes: the mother, the father, the child, the trickster, the shadow, the anima and animus. They are not memories, but predispositions. They are the empty, waiting riverbeds of the soul, and our personal experiences are the water that flows into them, giving them life and specific form. When your architect leads you into this hall, it is seeking a broader context for your personal struggles. That difficult boss from your waking life? The architect sees that your personal library only has a few volumes on this specific difficult person. It is a limited data set. So, it walks into the collective hall and pulls down the great, timeless volume on the tyrant, or the oppressor. It dips your personal problem into this vast, ancient well of shared human experience. Suddenly, your dream is not just about your boss. It becomes a mythic struggle. In the dream, you may find yourself facing a king who issues unjust decrees, or a giant who blocks your path. By framing your personal struggle in these epic, archetypal terms, the architect is doing something profound. First, it is telling you that you are not alone. Your struggle is not just yours. It is a human struggle, one that has been faced and navigated by countless souls before you. There is a strange and deep comfort in this, a sense of being part of a much larger story. Second, by using these archetypal symbols, the architect gains access to a richer vocabulary of solutions. Your personal library might not have the answer to dealing with your boss, but the great myths and fairy tales in the collective hall are filled with stories of how heroes outwitted giants, how common folk appeased unjust kings, how tricksters upended the established order. The architect can draw upon these ancient strategies and present them to you in the symbolic language of your dream. The solution might be a riddle, a magical object you must find, or a strange helper who appears in your hour of need. The blueprint for your problem is being drawn from a shared, universal wisdom. Think of the common dream of losing your teeth. On a personal level, it may be triggered by a specific anxiety about your appearance, or a financial worry. But when the architect dips this anxiety into the collective hall, the dream takes on a deeper resonance. Teeth are universally associated with power, with potency, with the ability to bite off a piece of the world and nourish oneself. To lose them is to feel a loss of power, a fear of helplessness, of losing your grip on life. The architect is using a shared, visceral symbol to express a deep-seated fear that is common to all people. What about the exhilarating dream of flight? Yes, it might relate to a personal desire for freedom from a specific constraint in your life. But in the collective hall, flight is the archetypal symbol of transcendence, of spiritual liberation, of rising above the mundane limitations of earthly existence. When you fly in a dream, your architect is giving you a taste of this profound, universal human longing. It is connecting your personal wish for a longer weekend to the soul's deepest yearning for release and perspective. Where does this hall come from? Is it encoded in our DNA, a psychic inheritance passed down through generations like the color of our eyes? Is it a field of consciousness that we all tap into when the noise of our individual ego is silenced in sleep? This is one of the deepest mysteries of the workshop. The architect itself offers no definitive answer. It simply uses the hall, knowing its power and its wisdom. It reminds us that while our lives are uniquely our own, the fundamental story of birth, of love, of struggle, of loss, of searching for meaning, a shared one. We are all individual actors, but we are performing in the same grand, timeless play. The architect, in its nightly work, sometimes acts as your personal director. But on these special nights, it becomes the director of the entire epic, reminding you of the mythic role you are playing. And on the rarest of nights, it does something even more astonishing. It gently taps you on the shoulder in the midst of the play and whispers, "You are dreaming." Section 9. Wielding the Architect's Trestle Board. And then it happens. In the midst of the mythic quest, in the heart of the surrealist gallery, or while running down an endless corridor, the architect performs its rarest and most startling act. It reaches out from the fabric of the dream, through the very character you are interacting with or the wind that brushes your cheek, and it gently taps you on the shoulder. It whispers a single, world-altering secret directly into the ear of your sleeping mind. You are dreaming. There is a moment of impossible silence, a silent thunderclap in the mind. The entire, elaborate construction of the dream, the vibrant colors, the intense emotions, the compelling narrative shudders, as if a cosmic tuning fork has just been struck. And in that shudder, a new light flickers to life. It is the small, steady flame of your waking awareness, miraculously ignited within the deep darkness of the sleep state. You are now lucid. The experience is a paradox of staggering beauty. You are still you, asleep in your bed. And yet, you are also here, standing fully conscious inside the world of your own creation. The line between the observer and the observed dissolves. You are the dreamer, and you are also the one walking through the dream. For the first time, the daytime manager, your conscious self, has awoken on the night shift. You are standing face to face with the silent architect. Your first instinct, in this moment of shattering revelation, might be one of overwhelming excitement, a surge of pure adrenaline. It's a dream. I can do anything. And in that very surge, the delicate world often dissolves. The vibrant scene washes out to gray, the sounds fade, and you find yourself awake in your bed, your heart pounding, clutching the ghostly tatters of the dream world as it evaporates. The architect teaches you a gentle lesson. The lucid dream is a delicate and precious state. It is like trying to hold a perfect soap bubble in your hands. Grasp it too tightly with excitement, and it pops. It is a tiny, flickering flame. Blow on it too hard with the force of your will, and it is extinguished. So you learn. The next time the architect taps you on the shoulder, you remember. You take a breath, not a physical breath, but a mental one. You anchor yourself. You look down at your hands within the dream. You study their lines, their shape. This simple act of grounding affirms your presence, stabilizes the shimmering world around you. You look around, not with the desire to control, but with the quiet wonder of a visitor who has been unexpectedly invited behind the scenes of a magical play. You are now standing in the workshop, beside the architect, before its vast trestle board. The blueprints of the dream world are laid out before you. Before, you were merely the character being moved through the design. Now you are invited to be a co-designer. But how do you wield the tools? Your waking mind is used to direct commands, to brute force, to the logic of cause and effect. These tools have no power here. You cannot shout, "Build me a castle," and expect it to appear. To do so is to try and shout at a painting, telling it to change. The architect works in a different language, and to become its collaborator, you must learn to speak it. The language of the dream is the language of expectation, of trust, of gentle, focused intention. You do not demand a change. You expect it. You wish to fly. You do not flap your arms frantically, fighting a gravity that doesn't truly exist. Instead, you find a high place, a cliff edge or a tall tower, and you simply know that when you step off, you will not fall. You will drift. You step off with the profound, unshakable faith of a bird, and the dream world, responding to your belief, cradles you in the air and lifts you. The feeling is beyond any physical sensation, a feeling of absolute freedom, of seeing the world you have just been walking in from a godlike perspective. This is your first lesson in wielding the architect's tools, the power of belief. The dreamscape is a living canvas that paints itself according to the shape of your conviction. Now, with this newfound skill, the virtual rehearsal space we visited earlier is transformed. It is no longer just a simulation you are passively subjected to. It is an interactive training ground. That shadowy figure is chasing you again down the dark, twisting alley. But this time, you are lucid. The fear is still there, a cold echo from the forge of your amygdala, but the flame of your awareness burns alongside it. You remember the architect's whisper. You stop. You turn to face the creature of your own anxiety. The pursuer slows, confused by this change in the script. The moment is electric with potential. You can now engage with it. You can ask it a question. What are you? What do you want from me? The answer may shock you. The terrifying monster might speak in your own voice, telling you a truth you have been avoiding. It might transform into someone you know, revealing an unresolved conflict. Or it might simply dissolve into smoke, its power entirely derived from your running from it. In this single act of lucid courage, you have done more than a dozen nights of passive nightmares could ever accomplish. You have not just rehearsed, you have engaged, you have learned, you have integrated. The Innovation Laboratory, too, opens its doors to you directly. You can consciously bring a problem from your waking life into this space. You can hold a difficult design problem in your mind and ask the dreamscape to show you a solution. The architect, Now working with your focused intention might build you a machine of impossible beauty that holds the answer, or have you walk through a landscape whose very structure is the solution to your puzzle. You can stand on a stage before a dream audience and practice your speech, feeling the anxiety but being able to rewind and try again with a different approach. You can become a conscious explorer. You can stand on the shore of a dream ocean and ask, "Show me something beautiful," and watch as the architect summons creatures of light from the depths. You can walk through the door of a dream house and ask, "Show me something I need to know," and find yourself in a room that contains a forgotten memory or a powerful symbol that holds the key to your current life situation. To be lucid is to hold a conversation between your conscious mind and the vast, deep, creative intelligence of your unconscious. It is a bridge, not just between waking and sleeping, but between the part of you that thinks and the part of you that knows. It raises profound questions. Who is this I that is aware? And who is the silent architect that builds these worlds? Are they truly separate, or are they two faces of the same, singular, mysterious consciousness that you are? In wielding the architect's trestle board, you learn the ultimate secret of the workshop. You are the silent architect. The phenomenal power that builds these worlds every night is your own. The lucid dream is the moment you wake up to your own creative divinity. But even these extraordinary nights must end. The flame of lucidity, however brightly it burns, is still a candle in the vastness of the night. The pull of the waking world begins, a gentle but insistent tide. The vibrant details of the dream begin to fade. Your control softens. The architect seems to take back the tools, preparing to close the workshop for the dawn. You have been a collaborator, but now it is time for the final, and perhaps most important, part of the process, the sunrise and the integration of this incredible work into the waking day. Section 10. Sunrise on the finished structure. The awareness of the dream, that precious, lucid flame, now begins to soften. It does not go out violently. Rather, it melts back into the landscape it was illuminating. The sharp edges of your conscious control blur, and the world of the dream, once so solid under your lucid command, begins to feel fluid and distant once more. You feel a gentle, inexorable pull, like a deep-sea diver beginning a slow ascent toward the sunlit surface. The architect, your silent partner, gives a quiet, knowing nod. The collaborative work is done. It is now time to close the workshop. You watch as the architect moves through the grand space of your mind with a peaceful, closing down rhythm. The great, roaring forge of the limbic system is banked, its fiery emotional energy dampened to a gentle, glowing ember. The great visual loom, which wove such vibrant and impossible tapestries, slows its frantic weaving, its threads of light retracting into the darkness. The ancient volumes in the great library are gently closed and reshelved by invisible hands. The tools are wiped clean of stardust and shadow and placed back in their chests. The entire, magnificent machinery of the dream world is being prepared for its daytime slumber. This is the source of a profound morning mystery, a frustration known to every dreamer. As you drift closer to the surface of wakefulness, you try to cling to the memory of the worlds you have just inhabited. You try to cup the water of the dream in your hands, to bring it with you, but it slips through your fingers. The epic narrative, the profound conversation, the face of the wise guide, they become like words written on the mist. The closer you get to the light, the more they fade. You arrive on the shore of morning with only the feeling of wetness on your hands and a vague, aching sense of a beautiful thing lost. Do not see this as a failure. The fading of the dream is not a flaw in the system. It is the final, brilliant stroke of the architect's design. The structures it builds, the emotional scaffolds, the training simulators, the surrealist galleries are not meant to last. They are like magnificent ice sculptures, carved through the night with breathtaking detail. Their purpose is not to be transported into the heat of the day, where they would melt into unrecognizable puddles. Their purpose is to exist for a time in the cold, clear air of the night, to impress their shape, their temperature, their very essence upon the space they occupy. The dream is the blueprint. Its fading is the intentional dissolution of that blueprint after the building is complete. The architect knows that if you were to bring the literal, logical memory of the dream into your waking day, your conscious mind, the ever-practical manager, would immediately begin to analyze it, to judge it, to try and file it away. Flying fish? Nonsense. A conversation with the shadow? Impossible. It would try to translate the architect's poetry into prose, and in doing so, it would lose the poem entirely. The architect's true gift is not the memory of the story. It is the residue the story leaves behind. It is the emotional afterglow, the silent, invisible ink with which the final report is written. As you lie in that soft, hazy state between sleep and full awareness, that gentle, misty shoreline called hypnopompiothus is where you can feel the architect's work most clearly. Before you open your eyes, before you think of the day's to-do list, simply lie still and notice your inner weather. What is the emotional color of your mind this morning? Is there a sense of quiet peace, a feeling of calm after a storm you don't remember? That is the architect telling you that a necessary repair was successfully made. The emotional scaffold was built, the crack was mended, and the structure was gently dismantled before sunrise. Is there a lingering feeling of wonder, a subtle smile on your lips for no reason? That is the echo of the surrealist's gallery, the faint, sweet perfume of a night spent in the presence of pure creativity. The architect has reminded you of the magic bubbling just beneath the surface of the real. Do you feel a quiet hum of confidence, an unspoken readiness for the day ahead? That is the result of a successful run in the virtual rehearsal space. You have faced a fear, practiced a response, and though you do not recall the specifics of the training, your nervous system does. It has integrated the lesson. Or perhaps you feel a sense of clarity, a new and simple perspective on a problem that seemed impossibly tangled last night. The blueprint from the innovation laboratory has dissolved, but its elegant solution remains, not as a memory, but as an intuitive knowing. The answer is not in your head. It is in your gut. This is how the dream is integrated. Not as a memory to be recalled, but as a change in the very architecture of your being. You wake up, and the house of yourself is subtly different. A new window has been installed, letting in a light you hadn't noticed before. A shaky foundation has been reinforced with a new layer of resilience. A cluttered room has been cleared, creating space for new growth. You are not the same person who went to sleep last night. You have been worked on. You have been renovated, refined, and restored by your own deepest, wisest self. The daytime manager now begins to stir. The lights of the prefrontal cortex flicker back on. The world of logic and reason, of cause and effect, reasserts its gentle, necessary reign. The sun rises on the finished structure of you, as you are in this very moment. And the silent architect, its work complete, retreats into the shadows, leaving behind its quiet gifts. It leaves you stronger, wiser, and more whole than you were before. And it will be there, waiting patiently, when you return to the peaceful space of the night, ready to build again. And so our journey through the workshop of the mind comes to a gentle close. We have walked with the architect, watched it gather the day's strange and beautiful materials, and witnessed the nightly construction of your inner world. Remember that this process, this quiet miracle of repair, rehearsal, and creation, is your birthright. It is happening for you, within you, every time you surrender to sleep. It is a testament to the profound creativity and wisdom that resides in your own depths. Trust in this nightly work. Trust in your own silent architect. Now there is nothing left to do but rest. Let these thoughts dissolve like the dreams themselves, leaving behind only a feeling of peace and wonder. May your own dreams be a source of comfort and inspiration. May they build for you a place of strength and beauty. And may you awaken refreshed, restored, and ready for the light of a new day. Sleep well. Good night.